Hi everyone, welcome to our first of our kind Ready to Lead virtual training. We're so thrilled to have you on our call today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to get started in just a few minutes, but as we're having more and more people join on, we actually have hundreds of women joining us from across the country. It's going to be a really exciting hour today, and we just really appreciate your time. We know that you're very busy in your lives, and we are so grateful for your time and your support for Hillary through Ready for Hillary. Before we begin, I want to just give you a quick few reminders. One, we sent you out an email that includes a screen share. And we're actually going to have a PowerPoint presentation that you can follow along while we are discussing being a part of Ready for Hillary today. So we hope you're in front of a computer and you can join on to that. Also, we wanted to mention yesterday China emailed all of you with some important handouts. We're going to be talking about some great message points today that we're using with the women's team at Ready for Hillary, and we want to make sure you have those to reference as we're walking through different components of our day. But to kick it off, I thought it would be a great idea that we have one of our fantastic founders, co-founders here at Ready for Hillary. I like to call her our historian-in-chief, fantastic woman, Alida Black, who is going to welcome all of you today to our call. Alida, are you on the call?
I sure am. Hey, everybody. I'm just so grateful for all the heartfelt support and sweat equity that you have put into Ready for Hillary. And I just wanted to give a shout out to Jessica in China for all of their incredible innovation and high energy and just flat out joy that they bring to this project. And I also just wanted to let you know that I've been living on the road for a while, and I just came back from Lynchburg, Virginia, off to Kansas City, Missouri this week. I've been, crisscrossing the country, and even spent 3 days in Europe talking to women about Hillary, and just the incredible reservoir of support and energy and commitment that's there. It just lifts our soul, and it will just compel Hillary to the White House. And I am just so grateful for everything that you've done, and I want you to know that thousands and thousands and thousands of women, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of women, are standing beside you on this call and waiting for your leadership. So thank you so much for what you've given to us so far.
Thank you so much, Alida. Alida has just been such an incredible chair and co-founder of this organization. She started this group early last year with Adam Parkhomenko, our executive director, and has just been such a champion for all of the staff and the supporters, and has just traveled the country and world to talk about the importance of encouraging Hillary to run. So thank you so much, Alida, for all of your leadership here at Ready for Hillary. I wanted to do a couple of quick introductions. My name is Jessica Grounds. I direct the women's team here at Ready for Hillary. My background actually has been in the women's political empowerment field for over a decade. I actually co-founded a group that inspires girls and young women to think about leading, have worked with a lot of women political candidates, and actually was very grateful to have the opportunity to work for Hillary when she ran the first time. In 2008, in 2007, I was actually in Iowa. So I'm also joined today by my fantastic associate, China Dickerson, who is working with me, and many of you have received communication from China, along with Danielle Moon and Lena Schneider, our awesome interns here at the women's team. I just wanted to introduce them because they'll be joining the call in just a few minutes. You'll hear their voices as well. And we're actually joined by a couple of our supporters who will be speaking a little bit later in the training to share some of their energy and excitement for Ready for Hillary. So we're really thrilled to have each of you here on this call today. Before I get into the training, I want to go over what we're going to be talking about today. To give you guys a little bit of framework, this is actually the first part of a two-part series. What we've actually decided to do is do a Ready to Lead training in a lot of different states in the country. I have actually been traveling to Iowa and New Hampshire and South Carolina. I'll also be in Nevada. And we are training folks in person, women supporters around the country. But of course, many of you are not in those states, and we wanted to make sure you were equipped with the information and the ways and tools to get out to build support among women for Hillary in your part of the country. So we've decided to do these virtual trainings. This is just the first part of the training, so we're going to go over some important messaging today. let me give you a quick overview of the agenda. We're going to talk about Ready for Hillary and what we've been up to around the country in the last year and a half we've been around. We're going to talk about how it's really important that we really are amplifying support for the midterm election. We're also going to be talking about some really great key messaging. We've developed some messaging earlier this year that I think will really help frame some ways in which you can talk to women you know about why you support Hillary. We're going to go through a great exercise to talk about telling your story. And then we're going to wrap up with some recruitment questions, recruitment ask. We have an ask of each of you to perform for Ready for Hillary, and we'd really love for you to be able to fulfill that. And if you do, we'd love for you to join our second session training where you'll get even more tips and tools to help to build support for Hillary around the country. So I just want to, again, thank you for being part of this exciting day. So to kick things off, I want to get your fingers moving on your phone, and we want to know where in the country you're from. And we have supporters from all over the place. So we'd love for you to right now press 1 on your phone if you're joining us from the Northeast. If you're online, you can see a PowerPoint, a picture of the United States map. You can see where you're from. So if you're from the Northeast, press 1. If you're from the South, press 2 on your phone now. If you are from the Midwest, press number 3. And if you're from the West, like I am, press number 4. Of course, Alaska and Hawaii, not to be forgotten, number 4. So again, press 1 if you're from the Northeast, 2 from the South, 3 from the Midwest, and 4 from the West. And we're calculating those numbers right now online, so it's exciting to see kind of what your numbers are looking like. And let's report out. Okay, awesome. So it looks like we have about, this is exciting, wow, what a combination. We have about 7% of you from the Northeast. We have 43% of you from the South. Those Southern women, wow, you guys are really stepping up. This is awesome. 16% of you are calling us from the Midwest. And we have 21% of you from the West. I hope that those numbers add up, Lena. I'm just looking at my intern. But no, but we're so thrilled to have you from all over the country. I think I'm getting a note here from my team that we have people representing 28 states on the call today. So thank you so much for doing this, being a part of this great day. So next we're going to talk a little bit about Ready for Hillary's goals. We want you to have a good understanding of what we're up to. First, we think it's really important to note Hillary really gave up her political apparatus when she became Secretary of State in 2008. She is no longer a candidate for political office, so she hasn't been engaged in the political world. And part of the reason we decided to start Ready for Hillary was to help build that support, that political support for her around the country. The next thing we think is really important to note in terms of why Ready for Hillary was so crucial to create, President Obama's campaigns, both his first and his second, really changed the nature of how presidential campaigns are run. He was able to amplify support among voters who don't typically turn out to vote. I'll talk a little bit about that in a minute. But we really want you to understand that part of what we had to do in doing this was to build this early support for her and help to build her political apparatus once again. So we have 3 main goals here at Ready for Hillary. First, foremost, and most important, we're building a list of supporters. That doesn't just mean people who will vote for her, but we're identifying donors. We're identifying organizers, people who would actually do events for her, and already many of you have already done a Ready for Hillary event or maybe participated in one. So we're identifying really a map of those key and crucial supporters so that not only does she see that she has this energy of support out there for her around the country, but also these people can be immediately activated if she decides to run for president, which of course we all hope she does. Second, we're actually building the political voice of Hillary and her focus. So what we mean by that is we're amplifying her political firepower. We're going around the country. Many of you know that before her book tour, she would give a lot. She's been giving a lot of speeches. So we made sure we had volunteers there, signing people up, showing the visible support for Hillary at her events. And then, of course, the book tour that's just continued to just finished recently, her new book, Hard Choices. We had a great Ready for Hillary bus signing people up around the country for Ready for Hillary and showing voters and people and Americans everywhere that there are so many people excited for a potential Hillary run. So that's the second goal of Ready for Hillary, is building the political voice and the power of Hillary. And last, and certainly not least, it is not lost on us that this is a very important midterm election. And one thing we all know is Hillary has said countless times that every election is important. And so we're identifying supporters for Hillary, of course, for the potential of her running in 2016. But we know right now it's so important that people get out to vote in 2014. And so that's our third goal, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a few minutes. I wanted to address a couple of questions because I think sometimes as we're talking about what Ready for Hillary is, all of us should realize this has never been done before. This is the first time that a super PAC, an independent effort, has actually gone out to build a grassroots army of supporters for a potential candidate. Never been done before. So we wanted to address some questions that you might have. We are completely an independent effort. We don't collaborate or work directly with Hillary. Of course, we have a number of supporters and people who know Hillary personally who have worked either in the Clinton administration or for her throughout her career, who have worked on her campaigns before, along with, of course, a lot of folks who worked for President Obama and his campaigns. But we are completely independent from Hillary directly. We don't collaborate. But what we are is a voice of now 2.5 million supporters. For those of you who may have seen, we actually sent out a press release today that we increased our donors and our supporters significantly, and we now have 2.5 million supporters across the country and 90,000 donors, which is really exciting. And as I mentioned before, what we're not. We aren't Hillary's campaign, but what we are is this incredible support network of people who are so excited about her potential run for president in 2016. Next, I want to talk a little bit about the 2014 piece just to emphasize what we'll be doing. Some people sometimes ask about our timeline. We are an effort that's really building supporters throughout the summer to identify those great grassroots folks that we need, and of course women are a big part of that. But what we're going to really be doing as the fall moves into the midterms is encouraging our supporters to be engaged in the midterms. As we know, we often have a big drop-off for Democrats in the midterm election. So we want to see that our voters are going out to vote for great candidates, to volunteer, and to give political contributions. Now, I do want to just mention we realize very much that some people are brand new to the political process here with Ready for Hillary, and we're so excited to have you. Some of you maybe have never been involved with a campaign before, and some of you are very seasoned political professionals. And that range is so important. And so what we want to make sure people realize is they get to actually, practice being involved in these campaigns and being involved in politics. So we're encouraging people to really get out there and support great candidates in 2014. I do want to mention that in terms of our policies, we'll actually be amplifying support for anyone that Hillary Clinton decides to endorse in the 2014 election. So as you may have noticed, last year she came out to support Bill de Blasio for mayor of New York and Terry McAuliffe for governor of Virginia. So if she does that again in the 2014 election, we'll be building support behind those candidates that she references to get our supporters out there in 2014. All right. Well, now I want to segue into an important conversation. It's very important for us to think about messaging. When we talk about messaging, we're really talking about how we talk to girlfriends and friends and people we know about why we support Hillary. And one thing that happened very early in our kind of creation of the women's team, I realized, I know Alita has helped me with this, and a lot of our senior advisors, Ann Lewis, we realized that in the political process, a lot of times women didn't necessarily feel comfortable talking about why they supported a candidate, and they wanted to be armed with information. I think we as women all realize sometimes we want to be perfect and understand every little policy component of a candidate before we support her. But I think it's important for us to think about great messages. When we talk about why we support Hillary, we all have different reasons for supporting her. But what we decided to do is come up with some key messages that we have heard from women around the country about why they're supporting her to be President of the United States. So our messaging, again, China emailed this yesterday, so you can follow along as we talk about this. We've created messaging that's called Her Voice, Her Values, Our Movement. What that really means, her voice is who Hillary is. We all know who she is and what she's done throughout her career. But that is a framework, her voice. Her values is really what she has stood for, what she has championed as First Lady, Senator, and Secretary of State. And our movement is really the idea that it's women coming together. We're really the driving force behind this movement. And so with that, what I'd like to do is actually read through some of the women's key message points. And as we do this, I'd like all of you on the phone to think about maybe some of these words and how they relate to your own story of why you support Hillary. So let's begin. Her voice. Hillary Clinton speaks with a powerful and compassionate voice, unwavering and hopeful in her vision of a stronger and better world.
She's fierce, she's funny, she's focused, and she's a fighter. She speaks from experience. As a girl who asks questions and challenged limits, as a woman whose lifetime path opened opportunities for others, as an admired, accomplished woman living in the public eye. Hillary told the world that women's rights are human rights, explained why, and showed all of us that we can make it possible. She shares with others her own stories, her successes, as well as the lessons of resilience that come from struggle. She's taken on the biggest of challenges, and she's continually worked for the smallest among us.
Today, in her own voice, she is wife, mom, lawyer, women and kids advocate, First Lady of Arkansas, First Lady of the United States Senator, Secretary of State, author, dog owner, hair icon, pantsuit aficionado, glass ceiling cracker, and to be determined.
Her values. Hillary reminds us that equality leads to opportunities. She believes in diversity and inclusiveness for leaders and for those whom leaders represent. She believes in full political participation and the cause of justice. She seeks important fights for equal pay and economic empowerment, family and medical leave, access to reproductive health care, affordable health insurance, better schools with expanded learning options, and safe and affordable child care. She is a dedicated and effective public servant. She's led national organizations, practiced law, served as First Lady of her state and of our country, served in the United States Senate, and represented our nation across the globe as the United States Secretary of State.
She made women a cornerstone of United States foreign policy as Secretary of State. Across the globe, she explained that for nations to succeed and economies grow, women must be respected and empowered at the leadership table. And as a diplomat, she worked to provide the tools to make that happen. She believes that opportunity is possible for everyone, no matter who you are, girl or boy, man or woman, where you were born, the color of your skin, your religion, your ethnicity, or whom you love. She believes we must hold the same respect for everyone, their potential, their talents, their contributions, and we will achieve a stronger, smarter America and a better world.
Our movement. Women are the driving force behind Ready for Hillary, a nationwide grassroots movement encouraging the former Secretary of State to run for president in 2016.
Now, with over 2.5 million supporters and 90,000 donors, Ready for Hillary is the vehicle through which Americans of all walks of life are expressing their support for a potential Hillary run. Our goal is to show Hillary that if she decides to run for president, she will have a grassroots army of supporters behind her. Thanks so much for taking the time to allow us to kind of read through those messages. We actually, as I mentioned, do this training in person, but I think it's a really important conversation and practice to think through some of these great messages. Again, we recognize not all of you will maybe resonate with each of these key points. You all have your own stories and reasons for supporting Hillary, but we wanted to frame out some of these ideas for you and provide them to you. So as you think about how you're talking to people you know, we're really building this grassroots movement. We need you to talk to new people about why you support Hillary. We want you to think about using some of these messages. I do want to mention one other thing. We sent you an email, a handout with some of Hillary's policy accomplishments throughout her career. Again, as First Lady and Secretary of State and United States Senator. That's also in the documentation. We will follow up with an email with with those policy accomplishments. But we have those for you again. So as you're thinking about why you support Hillary and what language you're using to think about your passion for her, you can think about some of the great things she's accomplished throughout her tenure and her amazing work. So now what I'd like to do is talk a little bit about this exercise of telling your story. And what that idea is really you conveying your own personal reasons for supporting Hillary. So again, we want you to think about some of those key messages we shared and then think about your own story. So let me give you a quick bit of my story. As I mentioned, I'm Jessica Grounds and I'm from California. And from a really young age, I realized I lived in a world that didn't necessarily appreciate women as the same way it appreciated men. And when I was in college, I actually had the opportunity to work for my first candidate, and it was a woman, and she was running for office in California. And for me, it really connected the dots between my passion for women and bringing up women's support and the idea of running for political office. And I support Hillary in big part because for me, she's been that role model to so many people. She's been a role model as a political candidate, but she's also been an impassioned person in terms of her support and fight for women across the world in terms of bringing women to the table as leaders. And so that's why I support Hillary. And I would love each of you to be involved by being a part of Ready for Hillary and signing up 10 of your friends to be a part of this movement. So that's my story. So what did I do? Let's kind of break it down. Again, if you're online, you can follow along. I explained who I am and where I'm from. I talked about an issue I was passionate about. I connected it to my personal story, empowering women at a young age. I connected to Hillary and how she relates to that for me. And then I closed it with an ask, a way in which you can get involved. And this is a framework that we want you all to think about when you're going out. Remember, part of this movement is really for you to talk to maybe some of your friends, women you know, that have never been a part of politics. I'm sure most of them know who Hillary Clinton is, but maybe they've never engaged before in the political process. And so you being open to sharing your story is a really personal way of doing that. And so I wanted to give that framework, and I want you to think about that. So right now, I actually have the great opportunity of inviting on one of our supporters, and she's actually going to share her story with you. Jackie Weatherspoon is from Exeter, New Hampshire. She's a fantastic supporter of Hillary. Jackie, are you on the call?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I sure can. Thank you so much, Jackie, for taking the time to be here. We would love for you to introduce yourself and share your story with our supporters across the country.
Well, this is a surprise, but I thank you so much for the honor, Jessica. And I have to let everyone know that this Thursday, as I'm cleaning in my kitchen, we're preparing a Ready for Hillary event at our home here on the campus of Phillips Exeter Academy.
Fantastic.
Yes, thank you. We're really excited, and we're happy that we're working with Sarah and Sean and everyone in the Northeast and Terry Schumacher and Risha. And we're excited because we're the first in the nation state for primaries, so we're really trying to focus on women. I have had the honor and the support of older women in my town many years ago, and I went to Beijing, China. I was sitting in the balcony, and Hillary came out, but before that, Donna Shalala came out, and she said, "Women, when have we ever had it easy?" I could relate to that. And then Hillary came out and she said, "Women's rights for human rights." And I always thought about something, what would I do in the next part of my life? Still being a mom, still being a wife, what did I want to do? And I decided when I came home from Beijing, China, that I would run for public office. You probably can't tell from my voice, and you don't have a picture of me, but I'm an African-American woman. I have been married to a gentleman for a very long time who works at Phillips Exeter, and we have always had the passion for young people, That's why I started my career in teaching. That's why I volunteered with the League of Women Voters. But then I knew it was time for me to step up to the plate. So with Hillary saying, let's run, I have understood as a former member of the House of Representatives where I served for 6 years, that if we don't support women, if we don't support women of color, if we don't support the next generation of women, we will never keep our rights. I supported Hillary's first run, and as an African-American woman, as a woman of color, I plan to support the second run. She talks about all of those 18 million cracks, but for African-American women and women of color, sometimes it's not a glass ceiling. I've heard the phrase, sometimes for us, it's a concrete ceiling. So with my ability, with my passion for Hillary and what she has stood for, and so many women in the movement that have worked with her, Stephanie Tubbs and so many, I plan to work for Hillary and to make sure that jackhammer for other women is used so we can bring more women to the political table to change the world. So I thank you so much, Jessica, for having this surprise opportunity to share my story, why I am ready for Hillary to run for president. Thank you.
Jackie, thank you so much for that amazingly eloquent and just very passionate explanation and story. And I just want to emphasize what Jackie has done is really shared herself and talked about her own personal connection to Hillary. And thank you so much, Jackie, for sharing that and all of the great work you're doing in New Hampshire and beyond to help build this movement for Hillary and our hopes that she does run for president. Next, I'd actually like to invite another one of our supporters on. Her name is Kristen Aschenbrenner. She's been a great supporter of us in Iowa, in the Midwest, and is a great young woman who I had the good fortune of meeting when I was out in Iowa training women. And I'd love to invite, is Kristen. Kristen, are you on the call?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can definitely hear you. Hey, Kristen, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jessica.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to turn it over to you now and have you share your story with our supporters around the country. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks for this opportunity, and I'm excited to tell all of you a little bit about myself. I live right outside of Des Moines, Iowa, in a small town called Cumming, and I moved home a few years ago to the family farm. For the past few years, I've worked for nonprofits and campaigns doing everything from advocacy, policy, as well as elections. And I'm also a former vice president of Young Democrats of America. I'm 35 years old, and when I tell people my background, they're usually pretty surprised to learn that 2008 was not only the first time that I got involved in politics, it was actually the first time I voted in my entire life. And the reason for that was I started dating someone when I was 17. I married him right out of college, and for 9 years of my life was in an abusive relationship. When I was in that relationship, there just really wasn't time or space, and it wasn't safe for me to have a voice. So when I finally made the decision that I was going to leave, I found my voice, and my friends who know me well will tell you that I really have not been quiet ever since. So because of that, I'm passionate about giving others the opportunity to share their voice, and I'm fighting to defend that opportunity. I know that Hillary fights for women to have a voice through opportunity and education. As Secretary of State, she was a tireless advocate for women to have a seat at the table across the world, and that means so much to me. And she also told the world that women's rights are human rights, which is so important. But to get Hillary to run and then to get her elected, we'll need an army of voices. And so today I'm asking you to use your voice and tell your own story. We need to show our friends and our neighbors why all of us support Hillary.
Thank you so much, Kristen, for your great story. I really appreciate your candor and really giving your background. I think it's fantastic. A lot of women relate to it, and a lot of people understand how challenging it can be sometimes, and it's so wonderful to have that. So I want to just, again, emphasize the process of this is, I think, one that's really powerful. When we're going out and trying to build this base of support for Hillary, we're not necessarily trying to talk to people who are undecided or people who are on the fence or people who don't maybe even want to engage in talking about this stuff. We're asking you to tell your girlfriends, people you know, introducing them to yourself and why you support Hillary. And by making it really personal, they can relate to that and connect to that. So as one piece of your homework following this great training, we really want you to think for 5 minutes about your personal story and how you can share your support for Hillary with people that you know. I'm actually going to pass the phone over to my associate, China Dickerson, and she's going to share a little bit about what our big request is for you following this training. China?
Hello, ladies. Again, my name is China Dickerson, and I am the associate here on the women's team at Ready for Hillary. And I am just super excited to be a part of this team and to see so many of you participating in this call. We have hundreds of women who registered and are participating today, and that's really great to see that Ready for Hillary has so much support, and that support will pass on to helping us elect Hillary Clinton as our first female president. So I want to talk to you all about the homework Jessica gave you, which is signing up 10 women to support Ready for Hillary. First of all, as Jessica discussed, it's very important that you all understand your story to be able to tell it to women who can maybe relate to some of your story, and you can encourage them to support Hillary Clinton and also to support Ready for Hillary. There will be a follow-up email that will include sign-up sheets of which you can include their name, telephone number, and email address of the women you included. And in that email, it will also provide the different ways that you can submit those sign-up sheets, including scanning and emailing them to us, and also via mail. Again, there's so many women on this call, and part of the reason that you all are participating is because you are encouraged and energized, and we are sure that you would be able to recruit these 10 women and have them sign up to be a part of our grassroots movement. So one of the things I want to hear on the team, we want to ask you is, who will you share your story with first? So again, Jessica talked about you being comfortable enough to talk to women in your community about why you support Ready for Hillary. But who do you think you feel most comfortable with and can think of right now to talk to about supporting Ready for Hillary? So get your fingers ready, because I have another poll question for you. So again, who will you tell your story to first? If you think that you will tell your story to your family first, please press 1. If you think you'll tell it to your friends, please press 2. If you think first you'll share your story with your coworkers, please press 3. If you think that your faith community connections will be who you share your story with first, please press 4. And if you can think of other networks of women that you think you'll be most comfortable with sharing your story with first, please press 5. Again, if you are interested in telling your story first to your family members, press 1. If it would be your friends, please press 2. Your coworkers, 3. Faith community connections, 4. And other networks of women, 5. And while you all are reaching for your phone to input your selection, we want to remind you that each of you signing up 10 women, because there are hundreds of you on this call, each of you signing up 10 women will yield thousands of supporters for Ready for Hillary. So it's very important that you all recognize that, and that you as an individual plays a very important part to helping us grow our grassroots movement. So our lovely intern is letting me know that 40% of you have said that you will speak to your friends first, and that others of you will first speak to other networks of women. So again, thank you for participating in that poll, and please use your understanding of who you will reach out first to help you tell your story. And remember, this doesn't have to be a very organized effort on your part. You can reach out to women in the grocery store, in the salon, or even in the grocery store parking lot. So please be encouraged again to reach out to these 10 women. And one more point I want to make, in that email when you receive the sign-up sheets, when you submit those sheets to us, you will receive an email confirmation of our receipt of those sheets, upon which time we'll also provide you with a link to register with Part 2 of our training, which will give you ways to engage these women you have signed up. So thank you all again, and I'll pass it over to Jessica.
Thanks so much, China, for going over what our request is today. And as China said, I just want to reinforce, we know this may sound like a basic, sort of simple introduction, but this is the first part of our two-part series. We will get more sophisticated in the next training in terms of giving you more tools to engage women. But we really want you to test out the efforts of reaching out to 10 women, get those 10 women in, and we'll continue to build support for you. Also, I want to mention that all of us here at Ready for Hillary, and especially the women's team here, are excited to help you in any way you have, anything you have. So if you have events coming up where you want to sign women up, and if you have, I know that a couple of our supporters, maybe many of you on the phone, including Jackie, is doing a house party. We're here to help you. And we're going to get into more detail about doing those sort of events on the next training. But we're here to be of service and support for you here at Ready for Hillary if you have any help that you need. We are going to actually wrap up now and take some of your questions. If you have a question, please press 1 on your phone now, and we'll be able to get to as many questions as we can in the time that we have. But I think before, actually I think we already have some questions that have come in, so I'm going to pass it over to Lena, and she's going to read a couple of the questions for me, and I'll respond to them.
Thanks. Okay, so one of the questions that we've already had come in is coming from Angela, who's in Georgia, and she asked what our plans were to bring new and diverse people into the political process.
Angela, thanks so much for your question. It's a very important one. One thing that I mentioned earlier was that we learned a lot in the last 2 presidential elections about the importance of amplifying support in communities that maybe don't typically engage in politics. So one of the very first hires that we did here at Ready for Hillary was to build our constituency team. And what that means are we have directors that are working within communities of folks that the President Obama, was really able to amplify and turn out to be involved in politics in a way they hadn't before. So we have a director of Young Americans, Rachel Schneider. We have a director of Black Americans, Quinton James. We have a director of Latino Americans, Christopher Guerrero, and we have an LGBT director, Lisa Changavadija, and they're all doing fantastic work around the country amplifying support in those particular communities. Now, I like to say with the women's team, we are half the population, ladies, and we are also sort of a constituency. We're sort of both. And so what we do here at the women's team is really try to identify women like many of you who are interested in reaching out to women. And that means a lot of diverse women. We have a lot of challenges out there in terms of getting more young women, single women, women of color engaged in politics. And so what we're doing is identifying supporters like you who look like those women, diverse array of supporters, and so that they can tap into their networks of women. One practical example of this is actually, I think, a neat reality in the women's movement, which is there's a lot of different generations out there that support Hillary. And we really want to encourage more young women to be supportive and more established women, older women to be engaged. And so what we actually have seen across the country is actually have house parties where you have an older woman and a younger woman come together and they throw a house party together for Hillary through Ready for Hillary. And that's a really exciting example, I think, of bringing in new diverse networks of women. So Angela, thank you for that question. It's a very important one. Do we have one more question from Lena?
Yeah, we had one come in from Denise, who's in Colorado. And welcome, Denise. She says, this is the first time I've decided to get involved at this level. And she asked if we'll be addressing any first-time jitters.
Denise, thanks so much for that question. It's a great one. Yeah, I think that's right. A lot of people, I think especially women, steer away from politics because it sometimes seems too, not necessarily complicated, but they don't know all the ins and outs of it. And a lot of times us as women, and I'm generalizing here a little bit, but we tend to kind of want to know all of the answers before we maybe step into something and do something for the first time. But really this is about us developing, as we've said so many times here, developing our own story of why we support her, why we support Hillary. One idea is, reading one of her books if you want to kind of get some more information about what Hillary has done, and then take those kind of pieces that really resonate with you and create your own story about that. But it's okay, and you have to start somewhere really simple. You can start with one or two of your friends and talking to somebody you personally know. Don't feel like you have to go and persuade someone who you don't know, a stranger. So start with people that you know, your friendship circle, family members, and really reach out to them and ask them to be involved. I always like to say this when we're doing fundraising or anything else where we're asking questions. What's the worst thing that can happen? The worst thing that can happen is they say no. And so I think just go out with confidence and recognize that this is an effort that takes every individual woman to put herself out there, really, and say why she supports Hillary and build that, because you never know where supporters will lie. You often sometimes maybe pass judgment, they must not be a Hillary supporter. Sometimes you can be surprised. I meet them on the plane all the time. Speak to them next to me. So those are some great questions to start, but we have a number of other questions that have come in. So China, do we have a question here?
Yes, we have Vivian Stovall from Colorado.
Hi, Vivian.
Hi. Yes, I am.
Hi, Vivian. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having this training session. I had a Ready for Hillary event, and it was interesting because I did it in a tavern.
In a where? I'm sorry, what was that?
A tavern or
a tavern. Oh, great. Mm-hmm.
Right. And one of the past mayors told me that that's exactly what he's been doing. And we had a lot of people who were in the bar come in and sign up.
Oh, great.
And now my question, go ahead.
That's fantastic. Glad to hear it.
My question is, I have not just women, but men who want to submit their names as Ready for Hillary.
Absolutely.
Is there a problem with that?
Oh, gosh, no. Absolutely. That's a really great question, Vivian. I think sometimes, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having your tavern event. Sounds like it was a big success, and it's always great to go meet people where they are, and they're at the tavern, and get people to sign up. So that was really a smart, innovative way of doing it. No, when we talk about, we absolutely want to engage men. We want to bring men into this process too. When we talk about the women's team, we're just one piece of a big operation here that's trying to get as many Americans involved as possible of all walks of life, of course, both men and women. And so we would love for you to sign up men as well. And there's just what we kind of like to say, sometimes there's different kinds of organizers. Some people like to maybe just work within women's networks and encourage women. Some people like to work with everybody like yourself, which is great. So we're providing tools to women so that you feel confident in sort of getting out there to find supporters, but we absolutely want you to bring in men into the fold, of course. They're a very important part of the process as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that answers one part of my question. The other one is I have been meeting with college students.
Yes.
And they want to get involved. So in the near future, is there a way to get them linked up with someone here to get them involved?
Wonderful question. Absolutely. We actually have a great Young Americans director named Rachel Schneider, and she's organizing campus teams on college campuses all over the country. Her email is rachel@readyforhillary.com, RACHEL. at readyforhillary.com. And Vivian, you're very welcome to email her and connect her to those college students who would be interested in being more engaged. We would love to have them. Yeah. Thank you so much, Vivian, for your great questions. All right, great. We have another question from, is it Helene Bates?
Or yes, Helen? It's Helene.
Oh,
it's
Helene. Wonderful. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm so excited. Thank you very much for letting us be a part of the training. I think it's a super way to help us get being more involved and get ready for this wonderful opportunity for Hillary.
Awesome, Thanks so much.
I also applaud the entire team. I know you guys are working hard and making tremendous sacrifices along the way in your personal life, but I just want to say thank you on behalf of all of us on the hard work that you're doing.
Oh, thank you so much, Helene. We really appreciate that. Well, we all are working in our own ways to make this effort happen, and it wouldn't happen if it weren't for people like yourself and all the amazing supporters out there. So thank you for your commitment. Appreciate you saying that. It makes us work a little harder every day.
I do have a quick question. I want to know how to connect with people in my city, in Las Vegas. Even though they're having house parties and I don't know about them or where they are, how do we connect with the supporters right here in our own area?
That's a really great question, Helene. One thing that I'd like to do is connect you to a couple of people. One is you're in a state that I'm going to be doing this training in person in. I'm going to be in Las Vegas at the end of August. And so I would love to pull you in if you're interested in helping to connect with folks in the state and in that area. But what I can do actually following the call, it's a very good question, because if things aren't public, it's kind of hard. In your case, I can connect you to our West Coast director, another Jessica Mejia. She'll be out in the state a number of times, and what I'd love for her to do is introduce you to some other supporters. But the best way to, for all of you on the call, because the question you're asking is good for everyone, going to a Ready for Hillary event that you hopefully know about, we do try to list as many that are public on our website. Going to an event and interacting with people there and starting your own network of supporters in your city is a great way to start. But in your case, Helene, you are in a place that we'd love to have your help. So what I'll do following the call is I'm going to email you and get you more involved directly and connect you to some people that we're already working with in the state. If that works for you.
That would be perfect. Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Awesome, Helene. Thank you. We'll be in touch today. Thanks so much for a great question. All right, I think we have definitely a few more questions. Carrie, you're from North Carolina. Carrie, are you on the line?
Yep.
Hi,
can
Carrie.
you hear me?
Yes, I sure am. Yes, I can hear you.
Hi. So I'm just getting in the beginning of this. I haven't actually done an event yet, but I'm excited about the future. And I live in a really rural area, but I'm actually about 15 minutes from Chapel Hill and 20 minutes from Raleigh, so I'm centralized as well. And I guess my question is, what are some other things that will be, you mentioned that training in the future will be focusing on kind of ramping things up a little bit. So other than like holding parties and stuff like that, are there going to be other ways that we can get involved in the future more directly?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, there's a couple of things where we need all of your help on. One, if you don't want to do a Women Ready for Hillary house party, again, we're going to go over those tools later in the next training. We have a couple of things. One is if there are events in your community where women are especially that you can go to and would be comfortable asking to sign people up, and if you're able to do that, we actually have toolkits online. We have a really interactive website at readyforhillary.com, and you can actually download a kit it's called clipboarding, but literally signing people up at events, or even, for example, if you're a part of maybe a Rotary Club or a local women's organization and asking to give a 5-minute talk about this movement. Say, I'm just new to this process, but I'm really supportive of Hillary, and I'd love to just say a few words about this movement that's happening. Actually going to that event and saying a few words, that's a really great way to spread the word for us. Because again, I know it's very simple, but we're literally building this list. The other thing that's going to be really important for the women's team, and I think for a lot of our organization, is to identify organizations and community groups especially for the women's team, where women are naturally. So I know a lot of places have book clubs and different natural networks of women. We really want to identify those and catalog them. So if you have information like that of where kind of how women are engaged, that kind of information can be sent, literally emailed to us and shared with us. That would be very powerful.
Okay, great. Yeah, there's actually a meetup group, and I'm sure a lot of people know about this. They're all throughout the country. But there's one here locally for women specifically, and I've been wanting to start going to that. So next week I can go there and actually present to them.
That would be perfect. That's a great example, Carrie. And let us know what we can do to help to share any information that you need. If you do any kind of an event, we can definitely send you stickers and materials, but we would love for you to do that. That's a great introduction, and then kind of see how it goes from there. It's starting to identify sort of leaders in your community that you can bring together, even do maybe like a group email with all of them. That kind of thing is very, very good. But I do want to be clear. It's important we're building these lists because once they agree to sign up on those sign-up sheets, then we can put them into this database that would be eventually transferred over to her campaign if she decides to run. So it's really important that all those people get appropriately cataloged in our information so we can track everyone.
Sure.
That's great. Yeah, thank you, Carrie, for your great question. And we need all the support we can in North Carolina, so thank you.
All right.
All right. Miss Sharon, I think Sharon from Pennsylvania, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Hi, Sharon. Thanks so much for joining us.
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be involved. I thought that the talking points were very good that you had as attachments for us, but I'll tell you, in this state, I run into a lot of naysayers and a lot of untruths that are being spread about Hillary, which I know are untruths. How do you best recommend that we deal with these people?
That is a really fantastic question, Sharon, and something that we get more than we'd like to say, right? So a couple things. I think there's two things to look at. One is obviously, as we mentioned, we're really trying to have you work with networks of women and people that are maybe just open and aren't necessarily those naysayers. So in terms of building the list, that's kind of part of the strategy is talking to those folks. But you're inevitably going to talk to these naysayers. A couple of things. We are not the campaign, so we can't get into the policy nuances of things. That said, we work very closely with Correct the Record. You can Google Correct the Record, and they're out there refuting any inappropriate untruths that you're seeing in the media. They only respond to things that they think are of worth to respond to. And what I mean by that is there's so much silliness out there, they don't respond to every little thing, or they'd be responding every second. So if all of you may have had the same challenges out there, go to Correct the Record has some great responses to some of the big ones like Benghazi and all of the big sort of issues or topics that come up that they feel are worthy to respond to. So that's really where I would point you. I think another great point is pulling out, again, personal testaments from some of her writing has been great. I know if you haven't read Living History, it's great to kind of know her history better. So that's another recommendation that I have. But the other thing, Sharon, the last thing I'll say is, we emphasize, I know, the whole telling your story thing, but it's the best thing if you're trying to kind of bring in new people, and also they can't refute your own story. It's who you are and what you're about, and that's nearly impossible for them to refute without basically being dismissive of you personally. So, but in terms of those policy topics, I would recommend Correct the Record, and let us know if there's other pieces that you need help with, and we can point you directly to them too if you need help with other challenges you encounter.
Jessica, it may be helpful to put some of that down as, like you just did, these talking points that you gave us today. Something like that might be very beneficial, and at least Correct the Record is on there, and some other things that you might be suggesting to people, because I think it's very helpful what you just said to me, for sure.
Okay, I appreciate that feedback, and I will. Sharon, I'll make sure to. I'll see what I can do in terms of getting that information out to all of you, and see maybe we can include something in the follow-up email to help with that piece. So I'll see what I can do to make that happen.
Anytime soon? Are you coming to Pennsylvania anytime soon?
I wish I were. I personally am not, but we do have a lot of supporters there. So sort of like the Helene's question from Nevada, I'm happy to connect you with some of our supporters there. So if you want to pop an email, we'll make sure to connect you with some of our supporters in the area.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
No problem. Thanks for your question. All right. All right. We have a question from Diane from California, my home state. Hi, Diane.
Hi. Good to hear from you.
Thanks so much for joining our call. We're glad you're here.
I love Hillary. I've been a Hillary fan since I met her at a Barbara Boxer fundraiser in the early 1990s.
Awesome.
My thing is I know a few things about Hillary, and one of the things that I think that we need to say is that she, and I can't remember the college right off the top of my head, but it was a good one, she was valedictorian. And I just think that speaks so much to her intelligence.
Yes.
And I think we need to include that in accomplishments.
That's a great point. So I will definitely give that feedback, Diane, just to repeat, I'd mentioned including that she was valedictorian. I think that's a really great point for a couple of reasons. One thing we forget oftentimes is the entire tenure that Hillary has had in our world in terms of her accomplishments. Her first job out of college was working for Children's Defense Fund. And so she's been
that's a biggie.
Yeah, it's a huge one, and a lot of people don't know the whole sort of history of all of the great work she's done for the middle class and for women and girls and children. And so I appreciate you sharing that, and I think that's a great thing. Again, intertwining that and putting that into our messaging when we're going out there and talking to women we know that really speaks to us, I think is a great addition. But I will definitely mention your recommendation to my team. I gotta get certain things approved of what I can share. So, but I'll definitely give that feedback.
That's public record. Additionally, you have some great things here for her accomplishments, but I think that and I think you're coming out with another talking point sheet, but these are a little bit too, I want to say general. Specifically, it would be better, for example, just the very first one, restore America's leadership and standing in the world. How did she do that? What specific actions did she take that did that?
Okay. Yes. No, that's good to be more deep around that. Well, I will definitely do what I can to share your feedback around that piece of it. But I definitely encourage you as you're sharing that you kind of delve into that piece of it if you think that speaks to the women you're working with. That's so great. Thank you, Diane, so much for all your work in California for us. Okay, we have a chance for one more question, I think. The time is nearing to a close, and we have a question from Sally from Ohio. Sally, are you on the line?
I am.
Hi, Sally. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Mine is a very you're welcome. Mine is a very practical question, Jessica.
Sure.
And I recently worked the table at an extremely large event here in Columbus, Ohio, the Gay Pride Parade, which is huge here.
Yeah,
and
great.
I know that's not specific to women, but anyway, my practical question is, I had people asking me and giving me advice about the sign-up sheet, and I didn't really know how to respond. The one question was, why is the school name important? Because it lends itself to believe that young people are who you're targeting, and I'm probably representative more of older women.
Right.
And the second question was, why were men not a checkbox? Because you're with women, but I mean, we're trying to do men too. And the third thing was veterans were really, really vocal about their desire to have that listed as well. So
that's great.
If you could answer my question about the school and then just take the advice, I'd really appreciate it.
No problem, Sally. No, this is how we get better and we continue to improve. I would love to address a couple of your questions. The school thing was on there because our Young Americans director was very she's doing a really specific campus organizing training, and that was something that she had requested to be on there. So it was just a practical thing to help her, but I appreciate that it kind of conveys that we're not focused on other things. So thank you for sharing that, and I'll see what we can do. I think we are making an update to this sheet, actually, and that might be included on there. In terms of the men thing, it's a great point, and I actually welcome all of your feedback about this piece. So as we all know, traditionally, campaigns have been oriented towards sort of everybody, but including men, right? And the reason why we do a separate women's team is because, as we all know, women aren't represented at the same rates that men are in the political process. We vote more, but we aren't in terms of candidates. We aren't necessarily as active and out there as a lot of men are. We actually give only about 30% of political contributions compared to men. We engage differently too. We engage within our own communities and supporting each other. So part of the reason we amplify support among women is we are the voting bloc that really matters, and this has evolved over history of sort of campaigns. So we focus specifically on women because there's a sort of difference of engaging women compared to sort of general populations. But but we realize that's a little bit kind of maybe a little bit old in terms of its thinking. So we don't necessarily, we're not including the whole men thing on there, but we of course want men to be involved. So it's great feedback, and we'll definitely take that to heart and also think about how that would be kind of considered in the real campaign if she does decide to run. In terms of veterans, I think that one of our constituency directors is actually identifying veterans. Do you know, China, which one of it is? So we're actually going to be rolling out our veterans for Ready for Hillary in the next month or so. So that's actually something we're...
And it was actually the women who were consistently bringing up that they were veterans.
Okay, it was the women vets. Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I'm sorry if I was a little unclear about the men thing. It's just that all of the campaign, of course, is focused on men.
That's okay.
Yeah.
It was the school thing that was really confusing to me because a lot of people went to school and they didn't know if they should put that down, but it's really students.
Right, right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes, exactly. Well, thank you for that practical feedback. It's really helpful. Well, thank you so much. I think that at this point we are out of time. I'm going to put up on our screen all of our contact information. I just want to thank each of you for being a part of this training today. As we mentioned, once you have sent in your 10 women that you have recruited to be a part of Ready for Hillary, we will introduce you to the information to be on our next training. But in the interim, please let us know what we can do to be helpful. As you build support, you'll be receiving an email from us today with more details, more tools, and more information. Thank you again for your support for Hillary. It means so much. And let's keep moving forward on this great fight as we encourage Hillary.